Now I said at the end of that section, does that pique your interest? But you already know the title of this section, and that is Animating Text. And we're not going to spend too much time on this because you already know this. You already know how to animate this in, and that's by using keyframes. Now, just a little point here. Before we click into edit, we have these transform capabilities. If you click in, you still have them, they're just in here, and you also have align. Now we can align to center there, we can align to middle. If you ever want something absolutely dead center, you align both of those, and if we bring up our safe margins, you can see the height is right the way through the center there, the middle there, and the center right there. But we don't want that. So how do we move it around? Well, because it's selected, just like in motion with an image, with a clip or an image, we can bring this round and drag it around here, and it's affecting here, but it's not affecting here. See how it's not moving that? That's fine. I just want to highlight that to you. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be animating this, but as you can't see here, there's no stopwatch, so we can't keyframe any of the things here. We can only keyframe them here. So for best practice, what I would do is I would place this where you want it first, and safe margins are a really good way to do that, because although we now don't have 4:3, because that is the old style of video, used to cut down there and cut down there, what we have here is safe margins. Now you've seen these so far a couple of times. What I need to draw your attention to with this is that these don't just help you with center, they are giving you what are safe margins. So anything that you want to put on top of video, you normally want to do inside this first box. The second box is, it's almost like a, yeah, you really don't want to go beyond here. If you really want to push it, yeah, okay, go out to here, but you don't want to go beyond here into here. And that's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, depending on the device that whoever is watching this is on, they may have the aspect ratio set to zoom rather than default, which sometimes crops in a little, and you want to ensure that something's not missed. There's nothing worse than watching a piece of video and some text comes up and it's kind of like there. You know at that point that you're missing something, and then from that point on you'll know, there might be a lot that I'm not seeing, and you don't want your audience to be feeling that. So what I would do is, yeah, okay, this is that safe area, but I always allow for playing in this area as well, so ignoring that inner box and just at least staying true to the outer box. That's what I do anyway. But again, this is all up to you. It's completely up to you. It's however you want to do it. A couple of little things to bear in mind when you are moving things around here like this, without having to drag around on the slider here. Once you start moving, you can move freely, click and drag. If you want to move it or you want to keep it in a certain position, you can then hold down shift. Watch how this snaps. If I'm coming down away from where it was originally and I press shift, hold down shift, I now can't take it to the right or left. It stays on the Y axis or the vertical axis. Control Z to undo that. If I start pulling it to the right or along the X axis and then hold down shift, I now can't take it down. It's really quite intuitive thing within most of the Adobe suite, and it really helps to ensure that you're on a certain alignment that you're looking for. So where do we want to put this? I'm actually quite happy with it up here, and we're going to have pizza animating on. Now, as I said, we've placed it where we want it, correct to this align and transform, but the motion hasn't changed. So let's do something. We actually have it on a crossfade, and I think I'm going to bring that back, but let's just get rid of that transition for now. So as always, click on that transition and then press delete. Doesn't delete anything other than the actual crossfade, so it's on. So now let's set a keyframe at the beginning for the position. So we know how to do that. We have effects control. If it wasn't on this, if it wasn't actually on effects controls, we'd highlight it, go up to effects controls, and then we're going to drop a keyframe right there. So we're toggling on keyframe. So that's done two things at once. Started the keyframing process and placed a keyframe right at the beginning, or right at the point of our playhead. So I'm going to drag on a little bit, maybe just to about here, and I am going to drop another keyframe, and then I'm going to go back to the first keyframe. And where do I want this coming in from? Well, let's say I don't want it coming from the top. I want it coming in from the side. So that's this value here. Again, we could grab it and drag it along, but as you can see, nothing has changed here. That's why I highlighted that at the very beginning with regards to graphics. You need to be really aware of what value you're affecting when you move something, because what you'd expect is that we've set a keyframe there, set a keyframe here. On this keyframe, I've dragged it off, so surely if I press play, it'll animate in. Well, it doesn't, and that's because I've moved it within this area and not where we're actually keyframing. So let's Control and Z to bring that back in, and we need to bring it off. There we are, all the way out. Are we out? Yeah, just there. Good. So we press play, and we've brought that in. Now that comes in a little bit fast, but also it comes in a little bit unnatural. Remember what we're going to do with regards to the easing. I'm going to drag that out a little bit, and okay, that now takes far too long. So maybe somewhere in the middle. Now I'm going to use my cursor and find somewhere better to finish this transition. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to press right once for 5 frames, and right again for another 5 frames, still holding down Shift, and maybe another. So I'm going to do it for 15 frames. So I could delete this and create another one, or I could just grab this keyframe and bring it into there. Let's just check if I'm happy with that timing. Yeah, that's good. Now let's make it a little bit more natural. So I could tilde it. In fact, I will, just so you can see it better, but you don't have to. I'm going to select this first keyframe, right click, and I'm going to temporal interpolation and ease out. And then what do we do with this one? Temporal interpolation, ease in. Sometimes ease in and ease out are already there for you to play with. Sometimes you have to go into temporal interpolation. I've never noticed the reasons why. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. Maybe someone knows, but I don't. So let's just check that and see how that feels. There we go. See how it slowly goes? Yeah, I like that. It's more of a, yeah, it's more natural. But now with that, I think it needs a little bit longer to come in. So I've thought, right, that's where I want it to stop. So I'm going to drag that keyframe up to that playhead now, and I'm happy with that. But it's not just pizza, it's pizza time. So I want to make another one, but I want to say time. How do I do that? Well, you know how to duplicate. That's easy. We just hold down Alt and we drag up. Now you can't see anything because they're both the same, but there's now 2 versions of pizza on there. But I want it to come down here. So I want it pizza and time underneath. So I just need to grab this. No, I don't. We've keyframed this. So if I get to the end here and drag the second pizza down here, why don't I want to do that? Well, because that looks all fine right at the end of the keyframe, the movement. But if I start to go backwards, we're now on this second pizza. And let's have a look here. What value is this first keyframe? Where do you reckon this is going to go back to? Is it going to go straight back like the first one? Or if you're ahead of me, you'll know it's going to start moving diagonally. That is moving back up to the position of the first keyframe. So let's undo that, Control and Z. And what we could do is we could clear all the keyframes and we could move it down. But the easiest way is to come over to here and change where this is. So now all of a sudden, an element of this that seemed confusing and why can't you do that has actually really helped us, because we don't really have to do anything else, because now it goes back straight because it's moving in position in relation to itself. We've just offset the position in this area. Makes it a lot easier, much easier. So let's change this text. How do we do that? Well, we go to the type tool, either press T on your keyboard or click type, and we're going to change this text, and we're going to say it's pizza time. So T-I-M-E. Oh, that's not how you spell time. And because this is all left justified, we've stayed lined up here. That's why you need to think about how your text is going to be justified right at the beginning if you're going to move on and add more to it, and you need to know where the text is going to be aligned in relation to other text. That's always a good way to do it. If you're center justified and you move it all over to the side and then you bring in another piece of text, I mean, if that was the case with this, all of a sudden you're off, and then you're going to have to do a whole load of changing. So I'm happy with that, pizza time. However, what I want to do is I want to move this up a little bit so the whites, there's no break between the white. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, you may also have noticed that when I was in the editing of text, this box, you see the box? It's all red. That means that we're in editing mode with the text. The minute that we click out, either by pressing escape or switching to the selection tool, it goes to blue, because the blue will note to you that we're in a transform setting rather than an editing of the text setting. What do we do now? Well, let's go back to the beginning and see how that feels. Pizza time. Good. Happy with that. However, I want them to come on different times. So how do we do that? Well, we could move these keyframes. I'll show you the long way and then the easiest way. So both these keyframes, these two keyframes, and if I click on the other text clip, the keyframes are at the same time. So what we could do is we could offset. So let's play and maybe say we want this to start, time to come in just as pizza is finishing. Well, we know that that's where the keyframe is for pizza because they're on the same line. So we could just grab these two and we could drag them off a bit. You see how time goes out as we're doing that? So let's start at the beginning and play that. Pizza time. That works. But we could do it easier as visually on the timeline, because we know that the keyframe starts right at the beginning of this clip. So all we need to do really is let's drag along to see where pizza comes in, ignore time for now, and I kind of want it to start just as pizza is almost all the way in. So now on time, by the way, if we look here, what is written in the text comes down onto here, so it's easy to keep track of what's actually happening. Let's grab this and let's just offset it to there. That's the beauty again of the snapping, because we can snap to the playhead, and that's where I want it to start. So we'll go back to the beginning and pizza time. Let's get rid of these safe margins for now, and brilliant. Now that's animating the text in. Do we want to animate the text out? I think so. And let's animate them both at the same time. So what we could do is we could keyframe them both to go out at the same time and set a set of keyframes for both of these. But there is an easier way. And it's, first off, we need to commit that we're happy with this. Although we can always change it, if we're happy with the way that they come in, which I am, and we're happy with the duration that they're on, the easiest way, and brace yourself with this, we nest. Do you remember when we nested a while back? We set up a nest. Let me recap that for you. So you can nest one clip or more clips. What we want to do is we want to nest these two clips. And the reason why we want to do that is because we can then treat them both as one object to get them out easier. So I'm going to select pizza, hold down shift and select time. This could easily also be done by drawing a marquee and selecting both. And my shortcut is N to start a nest. If you haven't set that up, don't forget you know how to do that in your keyboard shortcuts. You can right click and select nest. What this then does is brings you up a dialog box where you can name this nest, just like you could with the adjustment layer and also with the color mat. And we're going to just put in here pizza text and click OK. And now we have both of those. If I double click here, this opens another tab along here. We haven't done this before. Another tab along here, and it only contains these two elements, which are the two graphics clips, pizza text. So I'm going to X out of that. Don't forget, if you X out to something and you want to reopen it and it's not on your timeline, look right here. That is a nest because it's its own sequence, as it were. If I zoom this up a little bit, you can see that right there it's a sequence, just like if we double click into sequences, we are here with our pizza oven sequence, which is this. Now you can, if you want to, drag that nest into sequences. What I quite often do at this point is create a new bin and call that nests. And I'll grab that and just put it in there. Now if you don't do this, or you miss doing this once and then you carry on and you make a load, it's quite difficult to keep track of. So the easiest way to keep track of it is to add moving a nest into a bin as part of the nesting process. It's almost like you do it naturally. I would love, again, in a future update from Adobe, to have an option to create when you create your first nest, for it to create a bin in the project folder called nests, and to put that first nest into that bin, and then subsequent nests that you create to automatically put it into that bin. Maybe. I don't know why they wouldn't do it, but yeah, I would like them to. So now we have this nest. What are we going to do? Well, it's really quite as simple as the first animation. We're going to bring that, and then we're going to start the animation from here. But let's get to the end of the clip. And obviously the text is out because it's not here, but let's set a position keyframe. And now let's go back, holding down shift. I think we did 15 frames. So let's go 5, 10, 15, and let's set a keyframe there. And now what we're going to do is, remember, when we go to that last keyframe, because it's the end of the clip, you can't really see it. It's really quite frustrating because it's gone off it. So I'm going to come back one frame. And I'm going to tilde this in, and let's get this keyframe, just put it on there for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab the position and we're going to move it off. Both out together. Happy? So now we've got pizza time coming in and then both of them going out. You know what we're going to do next? Of course you do. We're going to add, right click, temporal interpolation and ease out, and the opposite on the last one, temporal interpolation, ease in. Also, this isn't right up against the clip. It doesn't have to be, but I want it there. Tilde out, and let's have a look at that. Great. So that's your animating text. Animating text is just like animating anything else for movement in Premiere Pro. It's really quite simple.